Hello everyone, and welcome to my review of X-Men Apocalypse. Is the X-Men franchise over, or truly just beginning?
Not all of us can control our powers.
Then don't.
X-Men Apocalypse, a movie that is so good that I had to plan out this review. I have a pile of notes right here to discuss. This review will be spoiler-ish. You know, the icon has a spoiler in parentheses because there's a lot to discuss, and there's just so many interesting things that I want to, kind of elaborate on the scenes because I thought some scenes are just so well done. So I'll do a couple non-spoiler things in the beginning, and then we'll move into what I thought was some of the high points. So Bryan Singer is an amazing director. Oh my god. This movie is paced so beautifully, and I have his name right here. Simon Kinberg, who wrote the screenplay, is excellent. I thought the way that these two worked together was so well done because I felt that every character had screen time. And I actually have heard that there were some characters like Jubilee, for example, that Bryan Singer really doesn't like that much. But, he still had to have in the movie because she's an X-Man. And, she even had some fun moments. There are other characters that, kind of outshined her, but every character had a moment. And that's what I really loved about this. And that's why I wished Bryan Singer had the ability to work on Batman v Superman, because I feel he would have done that movie justice. So the writing of the film is so perfect. Now, to establish just my credentials, I am not a comic book reader. I'm a fan of the X-Men TV shows. I love Wolverine, the X-Men. Huge fan of X-Men Evolution. But I never really read the comics, so I went into this with the presumption of I'm a moviegoer, and I'm going to see what Fox Marvel can do in comparison to Disney Marvel. And this is on level with Disney Marvel. And that's saying something because, this is also the same studio that created Fantastic Four, and we don't want to go into Fantastic Four. So Bryan Singer's directing was fantastic. He's also the producer of this film too, which we clearly know. But he worked really hard on this film, and that work paid off. I really hope that this film can hit the $1 billion club because I enjoyed it so much. I was focused on it the whole time. Not one moment did I get bored. I was the same way when I watched Captain America Civil War. I truly just was I want this movie to keep going because there's so much. Now, pacing-wise, it's interesting. A lot of X-Men movies, they have a little bit of exposition, then go right to the action, a little bit more exposition, more action. This movie is establishing a lot. And then the last act, the last 40 minutes or so, is the intensive action. It's setting up Apocalypse. It's setting up how to get his horsemen. It's setting up how to then defeat the horsemen. And then it's the battle versus the X-Men versus Apocalypse and his 4 horsemen and how to resolve that issue. And it was a little bit slower than what I was used to, but it was done so well that I didn't mind. I actually loved all the backstory for every character. And it's interesting because Magneto is a very well-established character in this franchise, and he even got more backstory here. Michael Fassbender is so good in his role, and so is James McAvoy. I loved Michael Fassbender here as Magneto. I wanted more Magneto. I felt that this movie was truly James McAvoy's movie, or Xavier's movie, and Jean Grey's movie. Jean Grey is the standout character of this film. She did so good. And Sophie Turner is the actress who plays Jean, and Sophie is very, very talented. She did the role major justice. And then also, Olivia Munn as Psylocke was so good as well. And Psylocke is interesting. I feel like Bryan Singer may not have liked Psylocke, sort of on the level of Jubilee, because she was kind of a quiet character. But in the few lines that she did have, I thought they were quite nice. I really liked it. I also love the visuals. This movie has amazing visual effects. They're to a point where I was oh my god, this looks real. There's a scene, spoiler, when Apocalypse sets off all these nuclear warheads, and you literally start to see the Earth more or less start to collapse. I mean, when the warheads went off, and then when Magneto activates his power because Apocalypse amplifies Magneto's powers, and when Magneto starts to literally crumble the Earth, it's just like, wow, Fox really did well in this. This movie had, I have it right here, it had a budget of $230 million, and it was well spent. I think the visuals were just so well done. Like, this is how I want all superhero movies to look, and it's sort of how I want all superhero movies to be paced, because I feel that when you have an ensemble cast like this, you really have to work at, establishing each of your characters, giving them all, equal screen time, more or less. Some characters obviously will get the shaft at some points, but at least give each character 5 or 6 minutes of points, so we at least recognize who they are, and that way that actor can be like, oh, I was in this movie, and I did a good job. And I think it was very well done. So, to end the non-spoiler section, I'm going to say, make sure that you go see this film, because it's just that good. Like, it's so good. Okay, so it's good. I've established that directing is great, writing's great, acting is fantastic, visuals are great. That's pretty much all you need in a non-spoiler review to know to go see it or not. 3D or not, I'm normally an advocate for 3D, but the last couple movies I've seen in 3D, particularly IMAX 3D, I've gotten a headache. And I'm not a fan of IMAX 3D. I don't know if the movie's released in IMAX. I just saw it in basic 2D, so go with 2D. I wouldn't say spend the money on the 3D film. If you have a 3D television, though, buy it on 3D. I think the 3D visuals at home are a lot less intense, but equally as good. So let's go into some spoiler territory right here, because this movie has a lot to offer with more to come. Like, I feel it's going to be a third trilogy at some point. I know that there's a new Wolverine movie coming out in 2017. I believe that'll be based off the Old Man Logan comic, because Hugh Jackman makes an uncredited appearance in this, and it was really cool. His interactions with Jean Grey were excellent. I really loved, when Jean was restoring his memories. I thought that was really interesting. I love how the movies, from the first 3 X-Men movies from the early 2000s to these ones, how it really weaves the whole story together to form a sextuplet movie series. So I love seeing Logan in this. He didn't talk. He was kind of, beastly and angry, because, he's Weapon X. He was pretty much being mutated because everyone was abducted after Havoc destroyed the Xavier Mansion. But I really did love seeing Hugh Jackman in this film. That's like the big spoiler, I feel, because his appearance was uncredited. Though you could easily just Wikipedia whether or not Hugh Jackman was in this film or not, but he is uncredited, which Fox was quite smart to do. So, how good was Oscar Isaac as Apocalypse? Well, I would say Oscar Isaac was a fantastic Apocalypse. I watched him on every scene he was in, and I was like, Oscar Isaac, you were doing a very, very good job here. I was not a very big fan of him in Star Wars, but I'm also not a Star Wars fan. I'm much more of a comic book fan. And I'm like, Oscar Isaac plays a very good villain. Apocalypse is terrifying. Apocalypse sort of reminded me of Darkseid a little bit from DC. And I'm not sure if I've already said it or not, but Bryan Singer really should have done Batman v Superman, because he would have done that movie so good. And Oscar Isaac definitely could have played Darkseid. So I loved, how Apocalypse is, we get his backstory. We have him in ancient Egypt. He transfers his essence from one person to another in order to live forever. And then after he succeeds with that, he decides to, he gets betrayed, and then he gets buried, and then he wakes up. And after he's awakened in the modern era, he's in the 1980s, and he meets Storm, and he convinces Storm, and he amplifies her powers, but he convinces Storm to join him. And Storm, played by Alexandra Shipp, she was interesting here, because I really feel that Storm, her moment comes towards the end, and I think just due to her backstory here in the film, she's a poor girl from Egypt. Apocalypse is a mutant who's essentially acting as a father figure to her. She idolizes Mystique, and in the end, when he sees how Apocalypse treats Mystique, she debunks against him. But I feel that Storm didn't really get that good of a treatment in terms of her development until the very, very final moment of the film. And I like Storm a lot, especially in X-Men Evolution, but I'm also used to an older Storm, not a younger Storm. But that's besides the point. So I think Storm of the four horsemen was the one who got the shaft in terms of that. And then Jubilee definitely got it too. But Jubilee had a lot of action sequences. I just loved when she was cutting things with her powers. That was quite impressive. It was very impressive. So Apocalypse has been revived, and he's pretty much seeking mutants to become his new horsemen. And he devours mutants, more or less. And guess who his target becomes? Charles Xavier. James McAvoy's performance as Xavier is so well done. And I loved going into the Xavier Mansion. And we go into the Xavier Mansion because we get to meet Cyclops. Cyclops is one of the first mutants we're introduced to, and Scott Summers, who is played by Ty Sheridan. And Ty Sheridan, I have to say, has a baby face, but does a very good Scott Summers. He's much better than James Marsden. And I actually can kind of see how they're trying to lead him into James Marsden. And I'm like, no, don't do that. Like, let Ty Sheridan be Ty Sheridan and own the role of Scott Summers, because he did a very good job here. And, he instantly meets Jean after his powers develop, and they have an instant connection. And I'm actually really looking forward to seeing more Jean and Scott together. I'm actually not a super big Cyclops fan. I feel the character is kind of boring. He's very stoic. But he works well here with Jean, and I can't wait to see what else they have in store for Jean. So what happens is his powers unleash. He's at the mansion, and he's with his brother Havoc. And now I remember Havoc as actually being his younger brother, but I guess in the comics he's his older brother. I'm actually truly not sure how that works here, because I know in X-Men Evolution, Havoc or Alex is the younger brother. That's where my memory of that is coming from. So, he has a really great relationship with his brother. All he wants is control of his powers, which is why he connects to Jean, because Jean doesn't have control. So he has a really cool relationship with Xavier, with Jean, and his brother. And, Apocalypse is deciding to go after all these mutants. And when Apocalypse eventually goes after Xavier, Havoc dies, and it causes Scott to kind of go into a rage in order to defeat Apocalypse. And he does get his moment to destroy Apocalypse. Now, the problem with my review of the film is there's so many characters to talk about that I'm going to be kind of skipping around, because the scenes that each character has is where they stand out. But then, there's many scenes where Cyclops does truly nothing. So Cyclops, his scenes come in the beginning and at the end, and that's where Ty Sheridan does the best work. But that's because that's where he was pivotal focus. So Cyclops is a really, really, really fun character to deal with. Another character who I really want to focus on is Quicksilver. Now, Quicksilver is played by Evan Peters, and he's so funny. Quicksilver's scene in this film is 100% when he saves the X-Men from the destruction of the Xavier Mansion. And to establish that, after he had already recruited Apocalypse, having recruited Magneto and Storm and Archangel, who we'll talk about in a minute, I'll kind of blend those stories together. After he had, converted them to his side, Apocalypse tries to take over Xavier's mind. Xavier is able to resist, but then he's able to abduct Xavier. And after he abducts Xavier, Havoc tries to stop him by using his ability to, create energy blasts, and it causes the mansion to blow up. And then Quicksilver comes in and literally saves everyone. There's a great song that plays in that scene, and I love that he saves everyone. He has a couple of nice moments with Raven talking about how he wants to tell Magneto that he's his son. But Quicksilver's scene is definitely when he saves everyone. So that was a fantastic scene. A lot of the best scenes in this film are truly when the mansion blows up. I really loved those scenes quite a bit. So let's kind of talk about Magneto for a minute and his scenes. His scenes truly come towards the middle of the film and towards the end of the film when he abandons Apocalypse. Magneto's best scene, or Magneto's backstory, after the events of Days of Future Past, he decides he's going to isolate himself. He gets married. He has a wife. He has a kid, and his kid has mutant powers, and the child dies, his wife dies, and Apocalypse, kind of plays with his mind a little bit to make him go kind of crazy evil, but at the same time, he's weak. Magneto's became weaker and more susceptible to Apocalypse's manipulation, and Magneto's powers get amplified, and he joins Apocalypse. So Magneto has a tragic backstory. He has a backstory within his own backstory. It's actually sort of funny, and that's definitely there. You'll definitely see the backstory what I'm talking about. So Towards the end of the film, he just realizes what he's doing was wrong, and he needs to stop Apocalypse. You know, he can't let Apocalypse do what he wants to do. It's like he just knows it's wrong. So I love that. Like he just sees the error of his ways. Michael Fassbender does such a good job. Like he's really, really, really good. Another character in the film that didn't do as good of a job as she could have done was Jennifer Lawrence. Mystique was so flat and so boring, and her point in the film was to make Magneto and to make Storm realize what they did was wrong. And that was really it. Jennifer Lawrence, you could tell she didn't want to be in the film. She looked great. Mystique looked great visually. Jennifer Lawrence's acting was fine, but overall, you could just tell she could have give two shits. She just didn't care. So that's all I really have to say about her. I've already talked about Xavier and how he was really great, but just to kind of dive in more to Xavier's character, Xavier, you know, after he gets abducted by Apocalypse, Apocalypse, you know, uses Xavier to send a message to the world, and then he tries to take over Xavier's mind, and Xavier resists. And the scene when he resists was so cool. He's fighting Apocalypse down. I love that. James McAvoy did a fantastic job in his role here. It was very, very good. I know I've said that, but I'm in love with this film. Like, I will see this film again. Obviously, I'm telling you, go watch it. So, the next and final character that I really just want to talk about is Jean Grey, because Jean, as I said, is the standout character here. Jean is the real breakout character of this film because she's the one who defeats Apocalypse. The Phoenix is foreshadowed here. Her great scenes with Logan, her great scenes with Xavier, her great scenes with Cyclops were fantastic. I loved seeing the visuals of the fire of the Phoenix, so I thought Jean was truly the best character here. And last couple little bit of notes I want to discuss. I liked Archangel. I thought he was really interesting. He kind of plays a character with another tragic backstory, of course. He's stuck in Germany in the beginning of the film. He's in a mutant cage match. His wings get ruined. Apocalypse comes and fixes him. And after Apocalypse fixes him, he joins his team, and he's like, thanks for fixing me. The scene when he got changed into Archangel was actually really intense. And he eventually sort of dies and then doesn't. It's a weird scene. But his death is more or less what causes Storm to realize what Apocalypse is doing is wrong. But I liked Archangel here. He's played by Ben Hardy. Ben Hardy does a really good job. And last but not least, Nightcrawler. Nightcrawler was fantastic too. His scene is when he's saving everyone from Apocalypse, like teleporting left and right and back and forth to protect everyone from Apocalypse's destruction, because Apocalypse is eventually, in his battle with Xavier in his mind, is destroying everything in Egypt. And Nightcrawler is the one to protect them. He gets knocked out at one point, then when he wakes up, he's like, what'd I miss? I'm not sure what happened there. So, the movie had a ton of characters in it. I feel like I touched on the characters that really stood out to me. I think Magneto, Xavier, Apocalypse, obviously, and Jean Grey were the best characters of the film. I really, really liked their acting. I loved the lines that they had. I love the visuals that surrounded them. And I'm really looking forward to seeing more what Bryan Singer has to do with this franchise. I'm looking forward to Deadpool 2 because I know a couple of these characters, like Psylocke, for example, and Psylocke definitely needs a little bit more development, but she was still pretty interesting. I would say more interesting than Storm. And Storm could use a little bit more development. I feel Storm works better as an older character. But this film, I enjoyed quite a bit, and I am looking forward to hearing your thoughts about it in the comments below. I know my review is a bit more scattered, but I really just found that those particular scenes that I mentioned is what made the film, and those scenes were just so good. So the final battle scene, the scene when the mansion blew up, and Magneto's development were probably the high points of this film. And like I said, visually, it's stunning. So share your thoughts about this film in the comments below. I really, really appreciate you guys all tuning into my spoiler review of it. It's a 5 out of 5 star film. I normally never rate films. I normally just kind of say go watch it or don't watch it or rent it and watch it on your TV. But I would say definitely see this in the theater. It's that good. So thank you for watching. Make sure to subscribe to this channel because I do reaction videos, movie reviews here, and other types of things. Tons of reactions all the time. Make sure to subscribe to my other channel, Model Nerds. Joe posts a lot there, and I post there with vlog videos, but this is like my main channel at the moment where I'm posting all my fun stuff. So make sure to subscribe. Snapchat is Rob678. Instagram is line_Robert. Twitter is the same thing. Make sure to like the Facebook page and leave your comments here. Like I've said, I really, really appreciate you guys checking out my review. I know it was longer, but I thought this movie had a lot to discuss. So thanks a lot, and we'll talk soon. Bye.